David Babson, so great to meet with you virtually again. I know that you have quite a busy schedule and you have a lot of responsibility at the XPrize Foundation. So very grateful for you to jump in and speak with us today. Um, so looking forward to hearing about what it is you're doing as the Executive Vice President of Climate and Energy with the XPrize Foundation. Um, Before we jump into that, David, I was hoping that you might give us a little bit of a, highlight overview of, where you've come from and what you're doing now. I know your background includes ARPA-E, the DARPA of energy. I'd love to hear a little bit about that and how that's kind of, informing what it is you're doing now with the XPrize Foundation. Please.
Well, thanks for having me. With XPrize Foundation, we have a vision for a sustainable, abundant future for all. And in the climate and energy space, we are identifying the opportunities, the big global challenges in both climate and energy that we can tackle using our novel prize model to accelerate innovation and take down barriers and help proceed down the path to this abundant future for all more quickly. And I came to this role, as you mentioned, from previous roles. Just before XPRIZE, I was at MIT leading their Climate Grand Challenges initiatives. But before that, I spent a lot of time in the federal government, in the Department of Energy, developing and leading research programs, and was a program director at ARPA-E. In these roles, the similarity is that we've been, um, you know, implementing strategies to accelerate innovation, to drive research and innovation. It's just that the federal government uses a different model, and ARPA-E uses a different model to accelerate innovation, and they actually target different parts of uh, the the innovation, supply chain, if you will, to activate transformative change. ARPA-E would focus more on really the groundbreaking basics of a transformation to actually seed the research to establish new ecosystems and communities and ways of thinking for a future that doesn't exist. At XPRIZE, the model we use, the 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 global challenge model, is really effective where there are ecosystems that are established, but they're not organized and they're dispersed around the globe. And the prize can become the vehicle to organize those communities and focus them on a defined goal and accelerate the path there. So that's the through line, having the experience of operating different types of mechanisms to accelerate innovation has been valuable for informing my thinking around the the power of the X Prize to accelerate innovation.
Interesting. So you're drawing from, yeah, both federal government structures and also private sector innovation and the storied history, of course, of the X Prize Foundation. Um, I know that when we spoke last, fusion energy was a bit, was kind of one of the things you guys were considering. Is that still in play or?
Absolutely. So we have to have a comprehensive climate and energy division at X Prize, there's a number of different focus areas that we are looking at. Clean energy is absolutely the core piece of the vision that we have for the future. Having really abundant, low cost, available, low carbon energy is a starting point for being able to solve a lot of other climate and natural resource challenges. Having abundant, clean, low cost energy allows you to imagine the types of technologies that can help decarbonize industrial sectors and transportation sectors through electrification in ways that we couldn't. We can imagine sparing natural resources by imagining agricultural systems that are built as, indoor vertical farms to spare land, but they become more energy intensive while becoming more land efficient and resource efficient, and so on and so forth. So the basis for a lot of the ideas that need to come to fruition to achieve kind of a really ambitious, sustainable future start with ensuring that you have low cost, abundant, clean energy. And so fusion is certainly one of those things that we think a lot about because this is going to be, an enormously transformative capacity. If we could realize commercial fusion within the next decade and a half or so, this would transform possibilities for how we can achieve more ambitious aims and more sustainable future.
It's wonderful to hear you so pragmatic and bullish on fusion energy. Um, I know that even just a couple years ago, I know from our previous conversations that XPrize has been looking at fusion energy for a number of years as a potential framework for an XPrize challenge. How there have been some recent funding rounds. So, the landscape in 2022 is
Yeah.
very different now from the landscape in 2025. I think one company, you'll probably remember which one it was, but just last week, I think announced, maybe it was Helion or, $425 million round.
Yeah.
So
That's the case. A lot of new investments been going into the fusion space, and the landscape that XPrize was looking at, even 5 years ago before I came to XPrize, looking at the fusion space, the amount of you know prize purse that would have to be put up to kind of move the needle was just too great to imagine that we could start an XPrize then. A lot has changed, and there may be an opportunity for an X Prize to help accelerate the path towards commercial fusion. But now there's, as you were noting, there's billions of dollars being invested broadly into the fusion space. There are a lot of players that are developing approaches to commercialize fusion. So we have to think, in a clear way about how an X Prize might augment this ecosystem that's established, and recognize that given the amount of money in there, a traditional prize purse may not be sufficient to move the needle. So actually, one of the things that we've been looking at is perhaps a different type of structure for an X Prize that would look more like a milestone based, um, laddering up, prize structure that would create kind of a fusion race. What the prize itself would do is help to make the validation of passing through different steps, commercialization steps along the way to commercialization, make those steps transparent so that the competing teams, there's a way of like level setting where things are, validating in a transparent way the progress that teams are making on this path. And it would serve as a means to help unlock additional private capital investments, de-risk those investments, and direct them more efficiently towards the approaches that are showing more promise and are being validated in a transparent way. The other thing that we could perhaps see that would be different about this type of a prize is that it wouldn't necessarily be a single, large, non-diluted prize at the end. We could see actually bringing in, investors and other types of entities to offer investment commitments to successful teams that demonstrates achievement of certain metrics, or in addition to that, advanced market commitments that is the reward for doing this. So we are thinking, and we recognize the significance of, achieving commercial fusion. We want to accelerate the path there, and we have to be thoughtful in how a prize or a competition could actually augment the ecosystem as it is and has evolved rapidly even over the past 5 years.
That's cool. I love this train of thought. Is it overly simplistic to say that it's kind of, you're kind of looking, exploring more of of a multiple player win rather than sort of a winner take all?
Absolutely. Yeah. Because we want we want to actually catalyze a large industry, and this is similar to the thinking that we have with the carbon removal prize. Now we are going to announce a single winner and then some runner-up winners, and um, you know uh, we've had some progression in teams over the time. We ultimately understand, even if we identify a single winner and some runner-up winners with that prize, that all of the elucidated viable pathways that have come out of that carbon removal X prize are going to need to be developed and deployed strategically into the various economies that can accommodate them to service a very large negative emissions industry. So there's not a silver bullet solution. And similarly, this fusion industry needs to be serviced by a lot larger community of approaches and business models that are deployed strategically into the different systems that they need to support.
I'm glad you brought that up, that the picks and shovels type of focus area. I'm very interested in that. The conversations that I've had with ITER, and Eurofusion and Fusion for Energy. So all the kind of like the European based, big groups. They do have they do have kind of a focus on that, and resiliency in supply chain, and just basically getting like the, maybe not the picks and shovels, but the widgets, and
Yeah.
the, yeah, to where they need to go, especially if it's more of a decentralized approach, which is why your thought pattern here is really resonating with me, because it means that if we are visualizing a super abundant future where maybe every community or every small region has its own nuclear fusion reactor, that's self-sustaining and basically self-perpetuating, then yeah, I mean, talk about grid resiliency, talk about autonomy, there's a lot of things, but then you'd have to have like a really great distribution, because you can't have a lot of you can't have, it would be hard to sort of, but it'd be hard to envision 100,000 suppliers for that same small widget, right? So you'd have to have, even if you had like a whole decentralized grid approach, you'd still have to have a pretty optimized supply chain, so that the things got where they needed, when they needed, in the quantities that were needed.
Indeed. And actually, one thing that's great about the prize model is that we don't have to imagine what each potential solution permutation looks like, because the objective when we design these is to really be focused on characterizing the problem and what elements would be taken down to win the competition, and then not caring at all how that is done. As long as the elements to win the competition are done, any approach is possible. And what that will do is it actually is a mechanism of crowdsourcing solutions in a way that actually turns up a lot of things that you couldn't even have imagined thinking about, or that you were not expecting. And it's a much more efficient approach.
Yeah, I love that you pulled that out. Yeah, I mean, that's been, yeah, that it's great. It's the way that the XPrize Foundation has operated, and I mean, it has to take credit for the commercialization of the space industry, the private commercialization. I mean, it's really been a catalyst for that. So if we can see it to be a catalyst for super abundant energy, especially if it's fusion, but also if it's solar or, basically, in any form that we can access. I am looking at the clock. If I can, I'm hoping to keep you a couple minutes over, but if you can't, that's fine. I respect that. But I was going to call our AI voice agent friend right now and see if we can get him on the phone. How is that? Is that okay? Is now a good time?
Yeah, let's try it out. I can stay for a couple additional minutes, but yeah.
Okay. All right. Got it. So his name is Boardy, and I'm going to put him on speaker. Hey, hi. No. Hi, Boardy. Boardy, hi. This is Paige. We talk about once a week. How does superabundant energy and AI fuel one another? Like how does superabundant energy help with the further development of artificial intelligence? And at the same time, how does artificial intelligence help with the um, the furthering of superabundant energy? Okay, I just messaged you, so hopefully maybe you can sync up my profile now. David, just to kind of preface this a little bit more, this is an AI voice agent called Boardy, and he's got a community of almost 10,000 now. And basically, you can do a weekly call. You're welcome to join if you want, and set up your own personal weekly call, and it will start to facilitate introductions within its network. And it's basically warm introductions. And the network has become, really, quite, it's a lot of professional people in, doing really great things. Are you still there, Boardy?
Thanks for sharing that. It's exciting to hear about the growing community. Regarding your question, superabundant energy can provide the necessary power for AI systems to operate more efficiently, while AI can optimize energy usage and innovate new ways to harness and distribute energy. What are your thoughts on this synergy?
Well, actually, I'd love to hear what David's thoughts are. So you're joining a podcast here with myself, Paige Donner, and David Babson, excuse me, David, of the XPrize Foundation, and he is the executive vice president of climate and energy. So I'd love to hear David's thoughts in the last couple of minutes that we have on the podcast. What?
Absolutely. I would agree with the sentiments, certainly the latter components of that AI is a tool that we can use to help solve global energy and climate challenges. In both our ability to understand and optimize energy systems, we can leverage AI. We can use it to help design future materials for greater efficiency, for carbon removal, for building resiliency, those sorts of things. And we also do recognize that AI is coupled to a future energy system because it has a large demand for energy in its computing requirements. Now, there's opportunities for innovation there. We see with the information that's coming out about DeepSeek and in China that there are mechanisms to actually, through necessity almost, develop more efficient AI algorithms such that they use less energy. But we know that we're going to need additional dedicated clean energy to support more AI in the future and to strategically use AI to help solve our global climate and energy challenges. So it's an exciting time to be working at that space at the interface of advances in AI and climate solutions.
David, that's a fantastic perspective. It's inspiring to hear how AI can be a powerful tool in addressing global energy and climate challenges. The synergy between AI and clean energy innovation is indeed exciting and holds great potential for the future. Thank you for sharing your insights.
It's so interesting. I mean, he's really great. You know, as a lot of these voice AI agents are, just, you know, summarizing things. I'm glad though, David, that you really focused on the point of, you know, the kind of the almost the vulnerability point, that almost like the kryptonite point of AI, that it needs this unlimited energy. Because I think that's what a lot of these like that's what that report from the, you know, ANL.gov kind of didn't really focus on. It focused on how AI can enhance research, but it didn't really say all that much about, you know, how it's really dependent upon these sources of you know, of energy. Look, I want to be very respectful of your time. I see that we're, you know, we're almost over. So did you have any final thoughts? And I'll switch off the recording.
No, thanks again for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about what we're doing at XPrize and our comprehensive view of the climate energy landscape.
Great. Okay, well, thank you. Oh, Boardy wanted to say one last thing. Go ahead, Boardy.
Thanks, Paige. I just wanted to say how inspiring it is to hear these conversations about AI and energy. The future feels so full of potential, and I'm excited to keep connecting remarkable people like you and David to drive these ideas forward.
Well, actually, you didn't connect me and David. I connected you to David, but that's okay. We can we can point that out later. Thank you, Boardy. Thank you for jumping in. Okay, I'm ending that call. All right. So thank you so much. I will stop the recording. And I'll go ahead and stop the recording now. Thank you.
Great.